Broadcasting from Baltimore, Maryland, home of Crab Cakes, Natty Boh, and The Wire, this is 5x3 Radio, where strength is for everyone. I am your host, Emily Sokolinski, owner of 5x3 Training, a strength and conditioning gym in Baltimore, Maryland, along with one of my brilliant coaches, Rebecca Fishburne. Each week, Rebecca and I will discuss the ins and outs of strength training, why there is a no one-size-fits-all approach, and why strength is so important in our daily lives. Thanks for spending some time with us today, and now, on with the show.
But see, like, I used to run marathons.
Yeah.
So it was like if you went out and ran your long run on a Saturday and you were out running for like 3 hours, that was expected.
5 minutes of conditioning is about all I do now with my clients. A bunch of inchworms and some body weight squats. Done.
It's a different world.
Done.
A bunch of inchworms and some body weight squats.
Yeah, that's it. That's all I do. All right. So today we're talking about barbell training while traveling. So last podcast was on recovery. And for those who listened to the last podcast, we spoke about the importance of sleep, food, and active recovery, meaning maybe your yoga classes, maybe you're cycling, walking, maybe running if you like to run. I think we also touched on massage and
Foam
stretching, foam rolling. So
I don't know, maybe we mentioned Epsom salts bath.
we did. I don't think we mentioned that. So some people do like that, and then definitely taking your vitamin I, your ibuprofen. Diego likes to call it your vitamin I. So we thought a good discussion, since it is summer, and despite COVID, people are obviously wanting to get away and wanting to travel. We'd focus on, well, what happens. You started a barbell training program and you're really getting into it, and then you've got some work-related time away. So we're going to start with, I think, that. I'd like to talk about maybe how do you continue your barbell training while traveling for work? There are definitely still people who have to travel for work, and how do you incorporate that training while you're away? So what are some thoughts on that on your end, Rebecca? I have some thoughts. I've got some ideas I've jotted down, but I thought maybe I'll start with you. What happens when a client says, I've got to go away for a week or so, and they ask you, what should I do?
Yeah, I mean, I think first thing you've got to consider is what are your work-related demands while you're gone? What's going to be expected of you? Because there's sometimes you might go away for a work-related event, and maybe it's just regular business hours. Sometimes there's also the expectation that you're going to go out for the company dinner, and your evenings are going to be occupied as well. So you got to, I guess, at first just look at how realistic is it to be able to find enough time to try and train. Once you've got that sort of in mind, then you've got to figure out what you've got available to you in terms of the hotel gym. Probably not going to have a squat rack. And I've had people who have traveled for work who have scouted out beforehand local gyms near the hotel where they're staying. And if they know they're going to have time, they might just try and do training as planned. Yeah. But yeah, I think those are the two big considerations: what equipment you'll have available, and what's your schedule going to be like.
Yeah, and if you're flying, I mean, can you pack? Are you going to pack your lifting shoes? Do you need to pack your belt? I mean, maybe you just have to do a slightly lesser, less loaded workout that week. Probably would talk to a coach. Talk to your coach if you have one, or if you don't have a coach. Consider the fact that you don't want to have to lug all your gear with you. So maybe you take a look at what you're supposed to do that week and drop the weight down a little bit. So you don't need a belt for those lifts. Probably could pack your shoes, but I don't know how much you want to pack all that other gear that you might have. So yeah, definitely scouting out a place, a gym, if you're going to lift. And I'd say if it's for work related, yeah, you kind of try to find a gym if you can. But if you can't, what are some suggestions that you give people if the local gym isn't available, they're not really near one, and the gym at the hotel isn't so up to par? Do you tell them to just kind of maybe not worry about that workout for that week, or if they insist on doing something, maybe more body weight work? Or
Yeah, I mean, I guess most hotel gyms will have some sort of cardio. And then maybe they'll have some free weights, or some hotels might have, like machines,
Right.
something like that. And I think it depends too how long the person is going to be away. If they're going to be gone for a week or so, I'd say, yeah, for sure, get yourself into a gym, do something. It's, maybe not going to be anything close to your usual workout. I guess always worst case scenario, like you're saying, you could do body weight stuff,
Right.
or pack some bands,
Right.
or that kind of thing. But for a week, I think maintaining some sort of movement and whatever kind of resistance-based work you can get in, it's probably worth it.
I think it's more for the consistency, especially if you've just started a program. You don't want to fall out of the routine. So even if it's not ideal, even if it's just some goblet squats, working with the dumbbell, maybe it's some rows. This is why I think that definitely trying to incorporate other exercises into people's programs, into people's barbell programs, and that's something we can talk more about, is essential. And that's something that Diego and I have been talking about and thinking about more and more over the quarantine, during the lockdown.
Yeah.
Because people...
Yeah, because we talked about that.
Yeah.
Like people who didn't have anything else in their tool bag
Right.
or whatever,
Right.
and then they're just like, nah, I'm just going to sit on the sofa.
Yeah, and I think that if you're traveling for work, and let's say you have a local gym, or you have the hotel gym, it doesn't have a rack, but it's got some dumbbells. It's got some kettlebells. Well, you know how to do a goblet squat because you learned it, and you've been doing push-ups, and you've been doing rows. So you can piece together a very nice program that is going to complement the work that you're doing, with the barbell, because you've got it part of your program already. But having people having more exercises in their toolbox to pull out, because that's going to keep them on that nice, consistent schedule. And if they can get away for a half hour, 45 minutes from their work-related activities, it's just going to keep them on track. So when they come back after a week off, they can pick right back up where they left off. Maybe they just repeat the workout from the week before if they hadn't been able to lift.
And that point about habit and consistency, I think for a lot of people is really crucial.
Yeah.
Like you disrupt the pattern that they've established, and then some people, like I like going to the gym, I like working out.
Right.
Like for me, if there's no squat rack, it's like, ooh, I get to play around for a week at a gym doing different exercises.
Mm-hmm.
Like, and that's one way to approach it, I guess, if you don't have the squat rack available. But for a lot of people, when you disrupt the habit, it's real easy to fall off the wagon, or postpone returning to the gym upon the return from the work.
Yeah, especially if you've just started. And I really like it when I have clients who have just started with us, and maybe it's been a month, and then they have to go away for a week for work, but they come back and they say, yeah, well, I found a gym and I did a few things, or I looked for a gym before I left that had a squat rack, and I'm kind of, I'm taken aback. I'm like, oh, this person's going to stick with it. I can tell. I have a good feeling. We had a client who's been with us for a couple years, and he does travel for work, and he was gone for probably about 2 weeks, and I thought it was because he was moving. But he showed up last night, and I said, hey, how'd the move go? He said, oh, the move was fine. I've been away because of work. He goes, but I've gotten all my training in. So he's got into a habit of definitely scouting out, gyms to get his work in. So he looked great last night. He's on a 4-day split. So he benched and then he pressed, and he was concerned about his press because it really was heavy when he was away. And then he realizes he thinks he added the weight wrong. So he put too much weight on the bar. So he can't do barbell math. So that was the reason, because his presses looked great. But I was thrilled when he said, I've kept up with all my training, don't worry.
Yeah,
and
that's
I
awesome.
think that's because he's really gotten into a much better place with his training, and he doesn't want to lose the gains that he's starting to finally make. So, I think traveling definitely throws a monkey wrench into your training, but you can make it work. whether it's finding a gym that has a rack or it's just piecing together a simple, body weight or dumbbell program that, can keep you on that consistent path.
Yeah.
That's really the big thing.
So how do you see travel for work and potential interruptions to training as being different from travel for fun or vacation, and how that might impact training? I mean, you still are going to have the issue of trying to find a gym that's got the squat rack and the equipment that you need.
When you're going on vacation?
Yeah. What do you see as the difference between a travel vacation, like a fun one?
So for me, my personal preference, and this is Diego and I both, every time we go on vacation, we don't train. That's just, we're going away for a week. So we usually just kind of take that week as a deload week, or an off week. We're going to go, we're going to have fun, we're going to, if we went to Puerto Rico one year, so we went spelunking, which was caving, and we climbed around, scrambled on rocks, and jumped into water, and zip lined, and we hiked, and then we went to, when we were in Canada one year, we took a long hike. So we're always finding some place.
So you're going on these real active vacations.
We go on active vacations. Yeah, we've taken a couple vacations.
You're not going to the beach and just sitting there with a book.
He hates the beach. So, we went to the beach one day in Puerto Rico, and we were there for maybe 2 hours. And he slept under an umbrella, under a hat the whole time. So that was fun. The spelunking trip he loved that because that was active. That was something that he was used to doing. So we take very active trips. We're not mountain biking and hang gliding, but we are walking around. If it's we're exploring, when we were in Scotland, we hit all these different tourist spots that involved a lot of walking around to see things. So we just take that week off. Now, and I encourage people to do that. I encourage people to just take the week. It's going to be a week. You're going to feel great. Be active, move around, or don't. Just rest, because you're going to come back refreshed and then ready to train again. Now, if you're preparing for a meet, let's say you have a meet coming up, a powerlifting meet or a strongman meet or something, maybe you do want to find a place to train, because maybe it's a vacation that was unfortunately had to be planned in between your training for this meet. That might be the exception, I'd say, for somebody. Then you do want to try to find a gym and try to maintain your schedule, your training schedule for that meet. But ideally, you're going to try to maybe organize your trip, after the meet, or before you start training for it. Ideally, it's after the meet, because then you have the meet, and then you take a week. Yeah, then you have a rest week, because everybody has a rest week anyway. After that, right? You've worked really hard to prepare for that. Now you need a break mentally and physically. So that would be, for me, this is me personally, that would be the only time that I maybe would try to find something, is if I knew that I had a meet coming up that was fairly close. But other than that, I think you just need to enjoy yourself. But I know you have often found a gym, while vacationing.
That's usually the first thing I look for.
Yeah. Now I think if you're going away with family and you need some time for yourself, that might be a good option. I'm going to the gym, everybody. I'll see you in a couple hours. Yeah, but we always go away by ourselves, so it's just the two of us. So, it's almost like, do we want to spend our time?
For the most part, we're not doing the spelunking vacation. We do go hiking, right? So hike in, camp out, keep hiking, camp again. Those, there's no gym there.
That's physical.
It's you got your pack and you're
rucking.
Yeah, so that is kind of the exception. But honestly, I do sort of finagle the hiking start day around my lift schedule.
Nothing wrong with that.
So we can leave after I'm finished my deadlift.
Right. You do what you have. You do what you have to do. Go. We're going away this year for a week, and it's we'll leave on a Saturday. So that's nice because I'll have the whole week. I'll finish out my training for the whole week, and then Saturday I'm off anyway. So there we go. I'm only going to miss 4 days of a training cycle, and that's plenty.
So like typically, what you're describing about like just needing some alone time, is what happens when we go on vacation, and like it's usually like a week for us anyway. For me, it's like a week at the beach with either set of grandparents in one house with my 4 kids. So it's nice to have a couple days where I'm like, I gotta go to the gym now. I'll catch y'all in a couple hours. And you meet some other people at the gym who are interested in talking about the sort of things that you feel like talking about instead of looking at you like you're a nut.
And that's one of the I was doing like my pros and cons list. Like, what would be a pro about training while away, and I think primarily for like a vacation, staying with the train schedule. So that's a pro. Consistency, getting away from family if you're traveling.
You actually listed that out.
I did.
And you thought of me when you listed that.
I'll show you. Nobody can see this, but you can see pro. Get away from family.
That's hilarious.
And I thought of you because I'm like, Rebecca she always scouts out a gym. I wonder why she does that. I'm almost positive it's because she needs some alone time. Nothing wrong with that. I think
because I'm an introvert.
I think if I said to Diego, I'm going to go to the gym, I need some alone time. He's like, then what's the hell the point of this vacation? So, and then preparing for a meet. So let's say, unfortunately, the schedule, the vacation had to happen right before a meet. You probably should try to find a gym in order to stay consistent. Cons, time away from the family.
Can we just go back to pros though for a second? Because the other thing, like I just sort of said, like meeting some people that have some interest. Right? Like I have actually met some really interesting people at gyms that I've traveled to that I kind of keep up with still.
Nice.
And it's just interesting sometimes too, like when you meet other people who are in whatever kind of facility, it's going to be slightly different. It's not going to be like your 5x3, right? I'm not going to find that on vacation.
Right.
But like just the conversations that you get into with people and finding out about different types of training. And like there's a gym I went to in Charleston. It was low country strength and conditioning, and it was just like the most interesting place. The guy is all equipped. He was totally different type of lifting than it's still powerlifting,
right.
But he's coming from an equipped background, and so we just had these interesting conversations about why do you look down when you squat? Why do you train this way? Between the two of us, and it was just in an interesting facility because it was at the back of an MMA studio.
That's cool.
So that was cool too. So you walk in through that, and just like experiencing other gym cultures is kind of fun.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting. You bring that up, and we do seek out gyms. Like it's not like we don't actually look up. Like I wonder if there are any CrossFit gyms in the area. I wonder if there are any gyms in the area. And when we do if we're walking around and we might come across a gym, then we're peering in the windows. We're looking at everything. We're pulling up the website. So our curiosity is piqued. Now, would we actually go into one if we had brought our stuff? I think Diego still would be like, there's no reason to do this. But we definitely. If we see a gym, we kind of want to learn a little bit more about it. We'll peek inside, maybe if it's open. Or if it's not, we'll just kind of peer through the door. But it is interesting to kind of see the different gyms that are around in the various places that we go to. Yeah, I never thought about that. Like kind of talking to other people and getting to know.
It's like gym tourism.
Yeah, right. Getting to know what other people are doing, but it is nice. I mean, then you have a place that you can know of, and you can recommend in case somebody ever moves to that area or is going on vacation.
Or vacations there.
Or vacations there and needs to get away from their family.
Yeah.
So one of the cons I wrote, I was like, time away from your family. Do you really want to spend time away?
You got that double listed.
So it's good on the one hand, but then they might be like, Mom, where are you going? Extra money spent.
They're not even awake yet. No. Who are you kidding?
Maybe you're spending a little bit extra money now. And what do I have here? I can't even read my handwriting. Schlepping all your gear, like your belt, your shoes, your chalk, like, and then vacations are vacations. They're away from the usual time, and they're for new things. So do you want to, spend your time in the gym when you do that at home, or do you want to spend your time, seeking out new things? It's I think everybody's going to be individual about it, but I think.
Yeah, so it probably it depends where you are in your training and what your upcoming goals are. Another thing I think I found just with myself as well as clients is you've got to be adaptable and flexible about what your performance is going to be like when you're either on a work trip trying to train or you're on a vacation trying to train, because there's different stresses on your body than in your everyday life, and that sometimes can come out in terms of your training. Yeah. I had a client who, hosts and puts together these educational seminars. They travel to a city, they put them together for, a specific medical field. And it's a long all-day event. And then there's usually some dinner afterwards, and if she tries to squeeze in a lift, she's just too exhausted. She's too stressed out. She's in charge of too many things to try and fit that in, and sometimes that stress will even start to appear the training session prior to her departure. When you're on vacation, depends what kind of vacation. If you're not escaping to go to the gym and you're escaping in a gin and tonic instead, that's a different kind of stress that your body has to process that you might not usually have to take into consideration. Sure. I don't know, and then that's going to affect your training, or like your person who misloaded the bar because everything was unfamiliar.
Absolutely. And I said, was that in kilos or pounds? He said, it was pounds. I said, so you messed up the pounds even. It wasn't even kilos.
Yeah, but I've got a guy who religiously would find a gym whenever he traveled, but there's variation in the weights of equipment. And there was a gym he went to, and he was sure that some of the bars that he was trying to use were not 45s. I'm
sure.
They didn't feel right. The lifts didn't feel right. And he tried to ask, and the people there were not it was not a barbell gym. It was a gym that happened to have some barbells, and they had no idea. They're I don't know. Sure. They weigh 30, 50, 40 pounds. No idea.
Yeah. Yeah.
And they finally found one person who was I think there's a couple bars that aren't standard weight, but I don't know what they weigh, and I don't know which ones they are. So there's a little bit of that, and that's too sometimes, depending on where you go.
Absolutely,
depending on what you can choose from.
That's when you make a note in your training log. Trained at the gym, did this weight, it felt off. Most likely the bar, most likely the plates. And you just kind of make a star next to it and suck it up and say, okay, well, I got some training in. I stayed consistent. I was able to do something. When I come back, I'm probably going to try to repeat that weight. I know I've told.
But see, that's.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
No, I was going to say.
I was going to say a lot of times you just end up repeating the weight anyway. You haven't lost anything, but you haven't gained anything.
Yeah.
You've maintained consistency. Yeah. You've maintained your good habit. You've got your, whatever other psychological benefits you gain from going to the gym and having some alone time.
Yeah.
But it doesn't always have the same training effect that it would have had in normal circumstances. Yeah. And you just have to be aware of that.
Yeah, I'll typically, I have a client she has a daughter who lives in Colorado. So she occasionally, she'll fly out there. She's not going there right now, but she'll fly out there and she'll train at her gym. And she'll say to me, I'm going to train twice a week. Can you let me know, what should I be doing? And I'll just say, well, if they have this bar, I want you to do this. If they don't have that bar, then we do this, because I don't know what kind of equipment they have. she's older, so she needs lighter bars for pressing, and for benching to start with. But she can use a 20-kilo bar for deadlifts and for squats, and make sure they have bumpers. And it's a CrossFit gym, so they pretty much always have what she needs. But I'll I'll either tell her to continue with what she's doing, or I might pull the weights back a little bit and maybe have her do more of a volume type of day, So don't worry about going up. Just warm up to this weight. I know you can handle that weight, and so I'm not worried about her doing a heavy deadlift or a heavy squat with me not there,
Yeah. Well, but even that sort of thing too, like your heavy squat, your heavy deadlift, then you get into that equipment issue.
Exactly.
Because they're not likely to have the belt
Right.
that you want.
Right. And if she's wearing a belt,
pack that. And I've called around to gyms, trying to figure out what gym I'm going to go to on vacation.
Yeah.
And I have my list of questions that I go through,
Yeah.
including, do you allow chalk?
Yeah.
And there are some places that seem like they would be great gyms to go to. They've got all the equipment that I think I'm going to need, but they don't allow chalk. Well, I mean, okay, so what do? You buy the invisible chalk from REI for rock climbing.
Yeah.
You do that off in the corner when no one's looking.
They have liquid chalk now. So you buy liquid chalk and then you just squirt, and nobody knows the difference, right? We had a client, and he doesn't train with us. It's been probably a couple of years now, but he traveled constantly. I mean, it was so rare when we got to see him in the gym. His wife also trained with us, so we saw her because she was home. But he traveled. I mean, he was out of the country, in the country, up in Massachusetts, and then driving down from there and then coming to the gym. So he really had to figure out where he was going to train. I mean, he was constantly calling around to gyms to figure out where he was going to train. But he did it. I mean, he actually made it work. He just knew places that he could go to. When he was in England, he'd go here. When he was in New Jersey, he'd go here.
Well, if there's some consistency to the places he's traveling to, then it sort of makes sense to establish roots in all those different places.
I can't imagine having to do that.
What's the age range for that individual?
He's now in his 40s. So he was in his 30s then.
Yeah.
Late 30s.
Because that's another thing I've found too, in terms of travel. Because a lot of my clients who are older, I'm gonna, 50, 60, whatever, they're traveling. And if they're traveling, especially by car, seated, like they can get out the car at the other end of an 8-hour drive and just things don't feel right.
No.
And then to say, okay, now the next day you're going to go and do a heavy deadlift, that just sometimes for some individuals just isn't going to work. So, I mean, there's, those considerations too. Who are you? What body are you working with? How does that body respond to, like I'm not used to sitting. I move around a lot. If I have to sit in a car for 10 hours to get down to Charleston, I'm going to feel that. And that,
so you have to...
Maybe the day you arrive is just a get up and move day.
Right. And on the flip side of that, so when we flew to Scotland last year for our vacation / camp, we were doing a camp at a friend's gym. And we actually... That's the one and only time that we actually lifted on a vacation. We lifted the day before the camp. So the camp was on a Saturday. We got in on a Friday, in the Friday afternoon, and we had lunch, and then we drove to Mac's gym, and we actually trained that evening, and it was great. It was a great training session. Like I had a good session, and Diego was saying that actually for jet lag, because we were quite jet lagged, right? It was actually good. We slept better. We really slept, and we had that because here I am. I'm having to sleep in somebody else's. They were kind enough to put us up at their house, which was like literally down the street from the gym, and we fell asleep just fine in this strange house. Never been there before, and did a camp the next day. So having that workout that day was good. I mean, it just felt. It felt.
I mean, that's
it
like
felt
your sense
really
of
good.
normalcy and routine, and
it was like it's Friday. It's Friday night. So we lift, right? That's what we do. Okay, so we did it, and I remember I was squatting, and this was still a few months after my knee surgery, right? And I didn't have my knee sleeves. I totally forgot that I was going to have my knee sleeves, and I don't even know if I guess I must have brought a belt. I must have brought my belt. I can't remember, but I squatted without my knee sleeves on, and my knees felt great. So it's like, someone else's place gives you that kind of feeling of like, I can do everything. Like, I'm feeling good. Like I'm training somewhere else. I'm in a completely different country. I'm like, and I totally forgot until after the session that I didn't have my knee sleeves on, and my knee felt absolutely great. So there's also that psychological, aspect to training somewhere else. You could feel stronger, or you could feel weaker in a sense.
Crappier.
And crappier. I felt
depends.
stronger. It just depends. It all depends. But but doing it, training jet lagged, helped considerably for us to sleep better at night and then have a good camp the next day. Yeah. We did lift on one of our vacations, but it was for a camp. There was a reason. We were actually going to a gym first before we continued on with our vacation. So those are my thoughts about training while either working or vacation. It's very individual, but I've
and I think the other bottom line consideration, you and I are both mainly working with, like regular people, not super competitive power lifters, right? That's a whole other different story. Right. Those are the people who are going to be planning their vacations around their training schedule and not the other way around.
Yeah.
We're just to be clear, we're talking about people who are planning their lifting around their life and not the other way around.
Exactly. And that's how we live. I mean, I love the gym. I love training, but when I go on vacation, I want to go on vacation.
And I think sometimes for people who are maybe just starting with training, that's a hard thing to recognize. That most likely what most people are doing, especially starting out, is planning their lifting around their life, and it's okay if your linear progression isn't a standard linear progression. If there's a little dip or a break or something like that because life happened. And sometimes life is an enjoyable vacation, sometimes it's an interruption that's necessary because of work, sometimes it's a family obligation or an illness or whatever, and it's all okay.
Exactly. And summer tends to interrupt a lot of people's training schedules.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
Right?
Like I know people who just flat out are like, I'm not so much with lifting, but like when I was doing, group fitness, people that would normally come to my group fitness class who were like, oh no, I don't even go to the gym in the summer. And I was like, what?
I'm a seasonal lifter. I'm a seasonal gym goer.
It's like, well, what do you do in the summer? I just go to the pool.
Yeah. I mean, I think
I just sit in a lounge chair.
There is,
it's like, what?
There are people like us, you and I, who we can't even fathom that. A week off for me is enough. Diego and I yearn to come back to the gym. I mean, I remember being in Amsterdam, and we were leaving Sunday to come back, and Saturday I'm calling Chris. I'm going, you got the gym? Yeah? How are things going there? Who's there? What's going on? Can you take a picture? And now like we're sitting in our apartment. We have Amsterdam to explore, and we're like, what's going on? Diego's like, what's going on? Who's there? Who's there? Who's lifting? Oh, I'm like, we can't. It's the week is done. We're done with our vacation, and we're ready to be back. So that's where we are. But there are plenty of people, and it is completely fine. Summer is the time to get away, and it's good. Your training may get interrupted if you're camping one week and then you're back another week and then you're at the beach another week. And plenty of people, they do that because this is the time to go and have fun and explore. And summers are quiet at the gym. Summers are always quiet at the gym. I expect that. But
yeah, well, who knows what to expect these days.
Right, I know.
We're talking about normal times.
I know. But when people come back, they come back usually refreshed, relaxed, and they just get back on track. We might have to take the weight down a little bit, or we may just repeat from the week before. I think if they're only gone a week, many of our clients are now in a place where they can just repeat the workout. If they've been away for too long, or they've started back but they're still having inconsistent training sessions, and then they go away for a vacation, we might have to do some regression. We may have to take the weight down again. But, again, it's your life should not be you should not be, your life should not be training. It should not revolve around your training. Your training should help you enjoy life more. And as long as when you do get back, you get back to a consistent schedule, you're going to be happier. And the next vacation or the next, travel for work happens, you haven't broken a habit. You've gotten right back into it, and you stayed the course. So, I think, but I think it's a subject that most people either don't think about or maybe worry. Well, what if I don't train while I'm on vacation? What if
Yeah.
it's usually it's okay. I think it's okay.
Yeah.
You're gone for a week, 2 weeks. 2 weeks, maybe you want to find a place. Get in once or twice.
Yeah, 2 weeks, I think you would want to find a spot.
Yeah, I think that's long enough.
Yeah.
But I can't imagine. For me, honestly, I can't imagine being away for 2 weeks somewhere. I'm a big homebody. It takes a lot for me to.
That's what your mom said.
It takes a lot for me to go on vacation. It takes a lot for me to go on vacation.
Yeah, your mom told me that.
Yeah, I'm a big workaholic too. It takes a lot for me to not work. But I don't feel guilty. I'll just say this: I don't feel guilty when I go on vacation and I don't train for a week because I know it's only going to be a week, and B, my body's gonna thank me for that time off and time doing other things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I think, I do sometimes, with people who are new, get the question of, how is this going to affect my, am I not going to get as strong as possible?
Right.
That kind of thing. And keeping some perspective.
But
and some realistic parameters.
Yeah, and I think it goes along with everything you said about the people that we generally work with. We're looking to be stronger than we were the week before. And honestly, having some time off and taking some deloads and resting are going to make us better. They're going to make our bodies better in the long run. Constantly beating yourself into the ground and physically and mentally exhausting yourself with, am I doing enough? Am I doing enough? That's not going to help you, with make progress. Having some time away, doing other things, and finding that those other things are maybe much more enjoyable because of the strength that you have. So then you want to come back to the gym because you're like, wow, that trip was the best trip I've had. I didn't get tired, running around the streets of whatever, and I hiked up this mountain and I had all this great energy afterwards. So I hear that a lot too from my clients who do like to travel, that they're carrying their suitcases so much better. Travel is just more enjoyable because of their strength.
Less physically draining.
Yeah, so they're, in a sense, they go away and they come back because they realize what they're doing at the gym helps them to travel better. They just feel better when they're away now. So they're not going to stop coming to the gym. It's especially those who enjoy traveling and being in different places.
Yeah, so I don't know, that's just reminding me we're going on a beach vacation in a couple weeks. And this, other than the camping, the hike in, hike out, where I am purposefully not planning to go to the gym because we're hiking all day. This is going to be my first week-long vacation where I will not be going to a gym. We're going to the beach, we're staying in the beach house, we're minimizing interactions elsewhere.
Right.
Gym is one of those things that's off the list this year. So yeah, that's going to be weird and somewhat anxiety provoking.
Yeah, so that'd be interesting to talk about when you come back. We might have to have a little.
If I survive, you mean? You
will. You just have to find another way to give yourself some alone time.
Yeah, no, actually, now I say that, but I actually do now remember. We did a camping trip one time. We went with some friends, and it was a long enough time that I would have wanted to go to a gym, but we're in the middle of the woods. I brought a kettlebell. Rebecca's
over there sawing. Mom, what are you doing? I'm building a squat rack. You're chopping down wood.
Yeah. It was like a car camping trip, right? So we had the truck. I could put whatever I wanted in there. I was like, we got room for these kettlebells.
Hey, sometimes that's all it takes. That's all it takes.
But yeah, so I figure I'll do something like that this go around.
I don't see why, just
pack some kettlebells.
Just give yourself a half an hour, 45 minutes away. Just me, let off some steam. and come back.
Yeah.
Come back.
There's a nice grassy side yard. Well, actually, I think we're at a different place. I'll have to scout it out.
Very nice. Well, I look forward to hearing about your trip when we come back. But next podcast, I know we're going to discuss training for the older athlete, the older client. So we'll have to wait for the beach discussion when you return in a couple weeks. Again, if you've got any questions about anything that we've talked about or want to just comment, share your stories, you can always email us at info@5by3.com and send us your questions or comments. We'd love to hear from you. And we'll be back again in another couple weeks discussing training for the older athlete. Thanks, everyone. Have a great week, and we'll catch you soon. Thanks, Rebecca.
Take care. See ya.
Thanks for listening to 5by3 Radio with Emily and Rebecca. If you like our show and want to know more about 5by3 training, please visit us at www.5, that's F-I-V-E, the letter X, the number 3.com. You can also find us on Facebook and Instagram. To learn more about Rebecca, please visit her website, cornerstonestrengthmaryland.com. Thanks for listening and have a great week.